think it looks spectacular. I love the colours.
So these are the conchas, which is flavored with cinnamon and star anise.
It's a bit boring.
Mm-hmm.
It needs a lot more going on in that. Nice.
So the cornucopia is a spiced white dough with paprika, cayenne, rosemary, and then a garlic butter on top.
Paprika's worked in that, hasn't it? I like that.
Thank you.
That's really nice.
I learned my lesson this time. I've got Ravelry open on the other half of my screen. Welcome back to Frank Knits. I'm Frank, I knit, and what I have for you today is something a little bit different from what I've done so far. I thought I would take you on a little tour of my favorite knit and couple woven shawls, scarves, headbands, however you want to use a piece of fabric, roughly shawlette size. But before I get started with that, I did want to catch you up on what I'm wearing and also my whips. So what I'm wearing right now is my Lakes pullover by Ozetta. So funny story about this sweater. I had knit a fireside pullover. I said I had Ravelry open, but this one I have a physical copy of. So let me just... It's in a book called Within. Fireside Pullover by Jane Richmond. And it's got this, like, ribbed detail into, like, for the upper part and then a large shawl collar. And I had a really fun time knitting it. This was, like, back when I was, like, first really getting into garment knitting in, I want to say 2016, which this would have been a new pattern at the time. So I have the book that this pattern is in. I walked into one of the local yarn stores in the town I was living at the time, and I saw this book, and I saw this yarn, which was Queensland, Brisbane in the color Wombat. This is a discontinued yarn, and remember that because it's going to come up in a second. So I knit the Fireside pullover, and it was a beautiful, beautiful garment, but this is a very heavy yarn. I wasn't really good at yarn substitutions at the time, and so the shawl collar just fell open. It didn't really lay well. I didn't like how it fit, and I was kind of precious about my knitwear at that time. I didn't get any use out of that sweater, and by the time I remembered it existed, it had sat unworn, because I wasn't reaching for it, for about 5 years. And that's nothing wrong with the pattern or anything about it. It just wasn't my style anymore because I had knitted it 5 years ago. So basically, I unraveled that completed sweater, which was a little bit of a nightmare, but it worked out. And I started to make an Emerson pullover, and that is by Emerson pullover by Vivian Xiao Chen, which I still really love. It's a brioche all over. I think it's like a interesting construction. Oh, it's half brioche. It's top down. You kind of start back here, you work your collar, and then you join it in the round. It's a nice construction. But I realized when I got about here on the sweater that there was no chance I was going to have enough yarn. So I changed courses. I wanted a saddle shoulder because I really just like this construction. And so that's how I landed on the Lakes pullover. Now, I got the body done, and I got one sleeve done, and then I realized I was going to run out of the yarn again. And I realized this was a discontinued yarn. So I went through everybody. I searched on Ravelry to see if somebody had it in stash, asked a few people, but then I got impatient. And so I went on the Queensland website and I started clicking through all of the local yarn stores in my region to see if anybody said that they had the color I needed in inventory. And thankfully, on the third one I tried, I did find that they did. So unlike other yarn where you're going to worry about dye lot, this is like a very color shifty colorway, so I wasn't super worried. I don't think you would know which part of the sweater is made from a completely different yarn, but the yarn had been discontinued for like 3 years, and so it's just very much like, whew, thank goodness for slow moving stock is how I finished this sweater. And so it was kind of a fight to the finish, but it's really cozy, it's super warm. Everything that made this yarn bad for the Fireside pullover makes it great for an oversized slouchy pullover like the Lakes pullover. So I love this. Great for a cold day. This is our first like really cold day up here. So that's what I'm wearing. Let's talk about whips. So main one, I still have not cast on the halibut mittens for my colleague. Reason being, I'm planning on doing a project vlog for that. So I'm planning on taking you through my process, updating it as I go. I think that'll just be a good project for that. But I have made some progress on the herbarium sweater for my sister. Got some more pattern repeats. I was right that this is a little tough on my hands and it's a little bit tricky to motivate myself to do for that reason. But check out that stitch pattern. It's so cute. It's really coming along. I have some concerns. I did gauge swatch, but I have some concerns because I am supposed to work 4 pattern repeats total before starting the gussets for the underarms. And I'm just worried that I'm not going to get enough length out of the body. And that's not a big deal. I can just add some more pattern repeats, but I am worried that that's going to affect the quantity of yarn that I end up needing for the overall sweater. That could delay me. I'm hoping to have this sweater done for Christmas, but it's not strictly a Christmas gift. So if it does get pushed back, that'll be all right. But I'm pretty pleased with how this is working up. And I think that the light colored yarn is really great for showing off this stitch definition. I think it looks really great. So I'm very encouraged by how this is going. Once we get to the fiddlier bits of the construction, then I'll have more of a sense of the sizing. I'm also probably going to be going to visit my sister sometime before the sweater's actually done, so we can do like a partway through try on, compare the sizing to how she's hoping it'll be, see if I need to course correct then. So I think that I'm going to keep slowly but surely pushing on this one. It's been a few weeks and I've maybe doubled how much of the body I've done. So not super speedy on this, but I'm pleased with taking it slow. And part of the reason I haven't been super speedy on that one is because the Hesper cardigan, which was just in the ideas phase on my last video, is now very nearly a garment that exists. So I'm just gonna... So I was thinking of using the teal and pink kind of colors, but I decided that I actually wanted to go for something a little bit more subdued. It's not showing up super high contrast, and it's not high contrast on camera, the quilt square motifs. The lighter green is a little bit harder to see, but in natural light and under fluorescent light, which is what I'm in most of the time on campus, it does pop much more than this. So it's got this yoke with the quilt square motif. And actually, I wasn't planning on doing both the sleeves before I finished the body, but I was knitting while we were watching TV, and I set my project down on the ground in front of me to stand up and point something out or grab something. I did that once, and then I did the thing, and I came back to my seat, and I picked it back up, no problem. On the second time I stood up, I stepped on the needle and I felt it break, and I broke along with it a little bit. And so I pretty much immediately ordered replacement needles from Knit Picks, but I did have the short needles, the shorter tips, which I find are fine for my hands for working sleeves. So I just changed course. And I do like to, my plan was, because this is the yarn that I harvested from a Goodwill sweater, and I estimated my yardage. I think I have enough, but, I don't mind cropping the body. I do mind if the sleeves end up too short. So I was planning on getting to the point where I was sure I would have enough yarn for the sleeves, doing the sleeves, and then coming back to add as much length to the body as I could while retaining enough yarn for the button bands and collar. So I just basically stepped that up a bit. But I've got plenty of yarn left. I'm feeling good about not needing to do yarn chicken with this one, but watch me eat my words next time I give you an update. But it's really cute, and I really can't wait to wear this. There's so much in my wardrobe that's in this like green, brown, and it's like, I think that it warms the gray up a lot to have it juxtaposed against the green. I think it's gonna look really nice, I think. But yeah, this with just like a t-shirt and jeans, it's gonna look so cute. And today I went through my button stash. I was less than encouraged by what I found in the way of buttons to go with this, but I do have these really small green plastic buttons from Stash. So I might use these. I might go wild, go crazy, and go pick up some buttons. We'll just have to see. I think these are a little small for the cardigan because it calls for 7 buttons for the whole thing. So either I could do more smaller buttons or I could spend money on buttons. I really don't like buying notions when I already have them. So I could also take another poke through my button stash and see if something else leaps out at me. But I think that these are probably from stash. And they're also like not really the green. Like they're kind of in between the 2 greens. I don't know. If you have opinions about these buttons, you let me know. So that's pretty much it in Whips land. I still haven't figured out what to do, no surprise, with my Stella quilt cushion, which makes sense because I haven't figured out what to do with it in months, so why would I figure it out in a few weeks? So that's it for Whips. Now for the main event, this beautiful pile of woolen goodness. I'm going to start with the non-knitted ones because I think they're kind of fun, and they're both woven. I've never crocheted a scarf. Also, these are far from all of the scarves, shawls, shawlettes that I've knitted. A lot of these end up being gift knits. So my mom has a few. She has this is actually from leftover yarn of a shawl that my mom has. It's this, I made her a tonal alpaca sort of white to black waiting for rain shawl. And that is a pattern by Sylvia McFadden. And it's sort of garter and lace. I love a garter and lace shawl, as will become evident as we work through this. So this is the darkest alpaca from that, and then leftover yarn. So the weft is all that dark alpaca. And I did some color changing warp. So some of the warp is this black to white ombre wool that I used to make a pair of socks for my mom. Some of it is this like rainbow. This is actually a colorway called she's a computer scientist, Grace Hopper. Grace Hopper, and it was yarn that was an indie dyer that was at the Michigan Fiber Fest, and I want to say 2016. I used it to make a little shawl for my niece that she has. It's a shawlette. It's just self-drafted little crescent-shaped shawl. She loved it. I think she's outgrown it a little bit now, but she liked to wear it to look like Nana because, I made one for my mom. So the color effect with those rainbow warps in there is subtle, but nevertheless very effective, I think. I think this is a really cute scarf, and this is my partner's scarf. But I will commandeer it for this. It's a little short, but it does have enough length to do like a cute little neck moment, and then when you're actually wearing it, I think the color is really subtle, and it's nice and soft because it's alpaca. So yeah, I call this one the secret rainbow scarf, because it's got kind of a secret rainbow. And then the other woven, these are both plain woven on my Cricut loom. The other woven scarf is this like tonal beigey white. This is actually Baby Llama Chunky Cascade yarn. I don't actually have any left. I thought I did, and I could pull out the label. I'm horrible at saving labels. I never do it. So this is a little bit longer. This was just a fun, hey, I feel like putting something on the loom. What do I want to make? And it's this very nice, warm, this is a good, it's chilly, but it's not freezing kind of scarf. It's got the fringe, kind of short fringe, and you can see in this fringe how absolutely fluffy this yarn is. And it's nice and soft. So that's my 2 woven. Honestly, I don't do much weaving that isn't plain woven because I have a rigid heddle loom. I'm looking into whether I might want to get some attachments for the loom to let it do some funkier things. But honestly, I feel like because I have to be at home to weave, I don't do it as often as I do other crafts. I would like to do more of it though. I remember being really pleased with the selvages on this scarf. They're pretty nice and even. So that's that beige one. Now, I'm gonna start with the one everybody has one of. This is my Sophie scarf by Petite Knit. And mine is made in a locally dyed, this is again from the Michigan Fiber Festival. I think this was 2021 that I got this yarn. It's a great festival, by the way. If you live in the Midwest and you haven't checked it out, it's definitely worth checking out. Classic crescent shawl that was taking Knitstagram by storm. I forget the name of the dyer on this. Again, I'm horrible at saving labels, but I do know that the colorway is called Golden Them Their Hills with the pronouns them, their. And honestly, I don't wear this one as a little shawl super often. I am much more likely to wear it as like a ear warmer headband kind of moment, like that, or wrapped the other way with the knot on top. I think it looks cute that way. It looks a little wacky with this outfit, but yeah, I shouldn't probably try to tie them around my head on camera. I think that's maybe a bridge too far for me. But, you know, if you've maybe seen a Sophie scarf before, it's got the built-in I-cord edging, all over garter, super simple. I actually worked on this when I saw Hosier this summer. This was the project I took with because it fit in my tiny little concert bag. And it was a really good scrap yarn project. I had this yarn left over. I made a pair of socks first. I actually have a couple of tiny shawls made from leftover socks, which means then I can wear the combo tiny shawl with the pair of socks, and that's very cute. I should have grabbed the socks to show off. Maybe I'll do a sock tour in a few weeks. The other little shawl, you know, I think this was recent enough yarn that I think I could Google this one. It is 80% superwash, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. It's called Posh Sock. I got it. I have this little tradition whenever I go to a conference out of town. I try to find a local yarn store and get everything I need to make a project during the conference. And the socks I made from this yarn, because it is called Posh Sock, which were vanilla socks with like a ruffle finish around the toe up, vanilla socks, ruffle finish around the leg. I knitted those during the conference, and then after the conference, I just sort of drafted this easy triangle shawl. I call this one the Dorothea shawl. I was kind of going for like a Art Deco kind of lace pattern. I think I just made this one up. It's just got sort of a diamond lace. I mean, made this up as in I wasn't referencing any particular lace pattern. I'm sure it is not original. Sort of a diamonds with central double decreases in the middle so that, you know, eyelets down the spine, eyelets on the edge. But yeah, I call this one the Dorothea. And it's a really cute little like kerchief situation. I have like a little brooch that I often secure this with, but you can also just tie it. But this was self-drafted, really cute. I've thought about whether this would make a good full-size shawl before, but honestly, I haven't done a full-size shawl in a while. Although I am kind of cooking on an idea. We'll talk about that another time. So that is the Dorothea shawlette. I think it's very cute. And to go with it, this is actually made much earlier. This one is, I want to say Juniper Moon, not Jupiter. Juniper Moon, and I think it's their, I got it a long time ago, so I couldn't say which line. I think it was Moonshine. It's got this sort of semi-solid, so I call this one because of the color and because of the motif, I call this one my Ivy shawl. So we get a close-up on the motif. It's got this sort of leaf idea. I think that I referenced a Stitch dictionary for the leaf motif. So it's really just classic triangle shawl garter, just like the Dorothea, and then a lacy motif and a picot bind off for some flair. But yeah, it's got this kind of leaf suggestion, like ivy. This one's a little bigger than the Dorothea. I wear this one all the time, actually. It's really perfect for like when you've got just the type of shirt where you've got a gap between your chin and your collar, and it's a little chilly out. It really blocks the wind. I think there's some alpaca content in this, if I recall. If anyone recognizes it. I bought this yarn when I was in my like very excited about yarn phase when I first started knitting, and I'm trying to get better about archival stuff so that people could recreate it. But honestly, I've thought about whether I could, release some of these accessories that I self-draft as a pattern, just because then I don't have to worry about grading. But, maybe I start with the Ivy and the Dorothea, because they've got the same design sort of language where they've got the eyelets up the middle, eyelets on both edges. That's the way that the increases work, and then you've got the lace. So yeah, that's the Ivy shawlette. Then we've got this sort of funky one. This is Knit Picks Simply Alpaca Twist. It's the darker brown, and it's got a little hole there because the intended use case is sort of to stick one end through the hole, kind of like a kerchief situation. I was playing with design here. I think the hole is a little larger than it would have to be if you were going to actually have it hold tightly, but it's actually kind of vaguely trapezoidal. If you look at the ends, I started to taper it back in. I don't know if that works super well, but honestly what I usually end up using this for is I fold the point up a little bit and I use it as ear warmers. Woo! And I just tie it, which renders the whole moot. But it is nice and warm. It's alpaca. This was the remnants of yarn used for a project that I ended up actually unraveling later, so I still have plenty of yarn to make this larger into a full-size shawl. I don't know that I'll do that though. This yarn is absolutely horrifying to unravel, I will say. So yeah, I don't really have a name for this one. I don't use it often. I think this one is a little bit dustbin of history, but some good ideas and some lessons learned. I would like to try to do one of those classic like 40s with the like arrow point. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe I'll find a photo and put it in here. But it is such a pretty yarn and very soft. But luckily, I have the exact same yarn in a lighter golden brown, and this is just a classic full-sized garter stitch triangle shawl. Nothing fancy, nothing unusual, could vary. I started from the top down, so is that right? I forget how we orient this in shawl language. I started from the point and I worked my way toward the hypotenuse of the triangle. And this one is like so like drapey and nice, and it stays where you put it, and it's nice and gathered. You can wear it like a scarf. Could also wear it, kind of classic shawl wise. It is a little small to do it this way, but I think it's very cute, and it really this is one that is all about warmth. Yeah. So, last but not least, we have the shawl So Nice I've Knit It Thrice. And this is the Oaken Shawl by Tin Can Knits. Now, the first one I made, I actually walked into the local yarn store, I saw a sample of this, and I bought exactly the yarn that they had made it in. So this is actually the exact color, the exact everything. I bought the paper pattern with the like Ravelry code. I love this shawl. I think it's a It might even be bulky weight that it's made in, or it could be Aran. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Woolfolk yarn, but I'm very sure that this is discontinued now. But I love this shawl. I wear it as a scarf, and it's got this like very nice sort of like almost honeycomb vibes to it. That is off center. Yeah, honeycomb vibes. The pattern is just, it's very much, I get compliments on this one every time I wear it. Like, I love this one, and not to mention it's so warm. And I loved it so much that I made another one that is a slightly lighter weight. This is definitely worsted weight. This is Knit Picks' Eco Wool, Simply Wool, in the natural light brown. And look at how beautifully that shows off the lace. Like, oh my goodness. And this one, my partner and I like to wear these, you know, together. I'll steal this one sometimes if it suits my outfit better. I did say thrice because the third one is less of a shawl, and it's made in like tiny, so this is actually held double of this like cobweb black yarn that I have, and I added these ties because I typically wear this as a bandana. And then you've got that kind of like cute little interest there, but you could definitely still wear it as a little shawl. But if you, again, I think it really shows off the lace. And that is my collection of shawls, scarves, shawlettes, and all other things. Now, quickly, I want to talk about my plans for next time. I have 2 ideas for next episode. One is working on a project vlog of the halibut mittens for you all to see. The other is showing you how I unravel thrifted items to harvest the yarn. I found this 100% cashmere kind of overwrap. It's a very fine gauge. I think if I unravel it, I'll be able to hold it double and make maybe a shawl. So let me know which of those you'd like to see, and I'll see you next time.